We shall be at the ready.
That's right. Good morning. Good morning to you. I'll bet it doesn't change. I don't know if anybody asked you to mention that there's cards in the volunteer. No, harvest. What harvest? It's for a Jashki, the growing tower, so people can come after the service.
You don't have it written down somewhere because I can ask Carol to include it in his announcements. But
Oh, okay. Do you want me to speak to Carl?
sure, that would be great.
He's probably doing it.
Oh, he's there.
Okay. Yeah. Hi, Carl.
Makes no difference. Thank you.
Okay, so you will start.
Take it away, yeah.
Would you like a fresh glass of water? Do you
If I need it, I'll see bottled water there, but probably I won't need it.
Okay.
Oh, that's where my book got to.
Bonjour, mes amis. Bonjour. Folks, that's about all the French that I know you're ever going to get out of me. Bonjour, mes amis. Because what more needs to be said, perhaps? Well, we'll see. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or watching from wherever you may be, you are welcome in this space. I'm the Reverend Eric Meter, the congregation's lead minister, and I'm thrilled to be with all of you on this last official Sunday of summer. This morning I am joined by Jan Bernstein, our music director, and Mary Jackson, our worship associate. You notice that once again we're starting things off a little different. I think this will be our way of moving forward in the weeks and months to come. Namely, our young ones are with us, making beautiful art, I might add. And as the program says, we will be singing together in just a little bit. Just to say, our young ones are making art now. If they feel the need to get up and move around quietly, that is absolutely fine, and we don't need to pay them much mind. They're taking care of themselves. We got thumbs up from parents, so we're good to go. I also want to say there is an insert in your order of service titled The Act of Installation. This is a draft. We're not going to be saying this today. I will explain later. All will be revealed. So let's begin warming ourselves up to this new day promising a bit of rain. Let us warm ourselves up together by singing. And we'll start by singing the song again that we'll be singing our children out with just in a little bit. Jen, can you help us get started?
Sure. I'll make sure my mic's on. So the tune of this will be familiar, either from last week or because it's already in our gray hymnal, but the words are new, so we'll just maybe make sure they're up on the screen before we get started so you can all join in. There they are. Thank you. Beneath our arms, we shelter you. You warm our hearts as you pass through. May our love guide you as you grow, to help you learn and help you grow. Thank you. So we'll sing it again later in the service if you'd like, round two. Next we have from our teal hymnal, Morning Has Come. And for this, I'd like to invite any choristers to come up and join us. You can surround our children with song this morning. Morning has come, arise and bring the day, and sing a song of gladness.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, welcome to the First Unitarian Congregation of Ottawa. My name is Mary, and I'm delighted to be your worship associate this morning. Whether you are taking part in this worship celebration from your home or wherever else you may be, whenever you may log on, you are welcome here.
We acknowledge that our FirstU campus is located on traditional, unsurrendered, and unceded Algonquin, Anishinaabe territory, and that the work of reconciliation is a responsibility of our congregation and of all Canadians. Our goal is to educate ourselves and all who have ears to hear, to be of service to those who are at risk, and to advocate for justice. Do take care and take advantage of online opportunities at FirstU to stay in touch during this protracted pandemic, endemic, whatever we're in right now. If you are new to FirstU and would like to learn more about us, please contact us through our email at welcome@firstunitarianottawa.ca. And if you are right here in Worship Hall with us this morning and you would like more information about FirstU, it is available at the welcome table at the back of the pews, and Lisa is at the welcome table today. After the service, Kate will be there to answer any questions you may have or give you any information you would like. And now here is Carl from our board to highlight our announcements for today.
Good morning. I have 4 brief announcements. Please note that in the upper parking lot where it turns to gravel, you may notice some construction soon. In November, they're going to be shutting off Cleary and Richmond as they make a separate special route into the campus. That's for the LRT. It's also not too late to sign your children up for our coming of age program for children ages 11 to 13 and the UU Friendship Finders program for 4 to 10-year-olds. And there are 2 upcoming vacancies for a nominating committee this fall. This is a simple way to help our congregation and learn about, get to know other congregants and people that want to become new leaders. To find out more information, please contact Joe Connor or Brent Nicole. Also, I've been advised by Colleen that there are hydroponic greens in the volunteer lounge over there that need harvesting. So if you want some fresh salad greens, please take them home so they don't wilt on the vine. And finally, the climate strike this Friday is a great opportunity to show that FirstU considers climate change a significant threat to our independent web of life. We hope to see lots of congregants there. And to tell us more, here is Donna from the Environmental Action Group.
Yeah, hi everybody, I'm Donna Bowen-Willer. Yep, the first important event this week, Friday's the climate strike. You can see my sign down there. Remember, 12 noon, Confederation Park near the fountain, south side. Look for the FirstU banner. Fridays for Future Ottawa-Gatineau is a youth-run organization, but despite our age, they need our support in their demands for climate action and justice. So please march with us. And Mike still needs more marshals, so there he is in the front there. And those of you who actually tracked down and were amazed by the climate action page this week would have found the second important event. Saturday, it's the Sustainability Showcase and Electric Vehicle Exhibition at Lansdowne. Meet exhibitors of sustainable businesses, listen to talks, panel discussions, all kinds of experts and entrepreneurs and change makers, test drive an EV. Don't miss it, there's going to be all kinds of things. And really exciting good news, our new heat pump has been inaugurated. It was cold enough on Friday that it came on for the first time. So hello to significantly lower fossil fuel emissions this winter, and many thanks to Mike Fletcher, who busted his gut to try and get this all done. So yay, Mike, we did it. Thanks a lot. One more thing, there are maps and for the march, and there are some papers at the back for people who want more information.
During the continuing pandemic, we encourage you to sign up To receive our EUU, our weekly email newsletter, comes out every Friday afternoon. Check out our Facebook and Instagram pages and our webpage for notices and updates. Our calendar continues to be as full as ever, though many of our activities still take place online. Whatever your heritage, whatever your faith, whomever and however you love, however, you know what I mean. However you identify today, you are part of this, our spiritual community. Welcome. Again, I'm the Reverend Eric Meter, and let me just take who is responsible for bringing the flowers in? I don't know if it's my authority, but there's going to be a special place in heaven just for you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Church is not church without some recently live flowers. We need the natural beauty inside as well as outside, in addition to your beautiful, smiling faces. This morning we light our chalice to these words adapted from those by my colleague and friend, Suzelle Lynch. Each time we light our chalice, we renew our commitment to our faith. With the spark of a match, we make it new again, as fresh and surprising as a first day, the first day we encountered a spiritual community and realized we were home. We light this chalice for the renewal of our faith. Do we have a volunteer, or do I have to do this all by myself? I think I can. We'll see. I have asked Akesh to help. Oh, are you doing it instead? Your Mike. I can help. You can help, all right. I've asked Mike to help for our Time for All Ages. Let me see if I've forgotten something in the program. No, I think I have this right. If I have it wrong, fire me. Neo has helped us put together some slides. We're going to be talking about how we greet one another, and I'm going to be teaching the Secret Uu Handshake, which won't be so secret anymore, so we're going to practice it together and make sure we get it right. All right. There are different ways to greet one another, to greet people we know or people we've never met before. And they'll put the slides together. Let's see the first way. We can shake hands. And if I understand this right, can I have this mic on? This meant my hand is showing you I don't have a weapon. I greet you weaponless. In certain times in history, that's a very important thing. Our next way of greeting one another is the elbow. In COVID times, this was really important. We didn't know that only, well, if ever, COVID isn't spread this way. So we tried our elbows. And it was odd, but it was kind of fun. What's the next way? Fist bump, boom. Try it again, boom. One more time, boom. You guys can be practicing this too, but not with too much energy this way. We've got another way you can practice this as well. Namaste. The divine in me greets the divine in you. Put our hands together and make a little bow. This is probably the deepest, the most lovely tradition that humans have created, at least in my estimation. And I say that because what's next, I think, is the Secret Uu Handshake, which is not as sublime. We're going to need to give ourselves a little more space, Akesh. All right. You ready? And then what do? We make a chalice with a little lake. Like I said, it's not as sublime as Namaste, but no one else does it that way. Practice. One more time, Akesh. Make a chalice. We've got, yeah, that's pretty good. You kind of have to practice. Many folks don't do that naturally. There we go. Even couples can do it. Thank you. Woo. From the ridiculous again to the sublime, let us sing as we practice before our children out to the rest of their activities, the rest of their important time together this morning. Jen?
Beneath our arms, we shelter you. You warm our hearts as we pass through. May our love guide you as you go. To help you learn and help you grow.
Thank you. Mary.
Well, I'm not sure I can adequately follow a presentation like that, but I will do what I can. Whatever you have come in anticipating, whatever you expect or worry for our world, for the future, for our lives, let it go. Make space in your heart to be surprised. Make room in your soul for a new story to take shape. Let astonishment be possible at this life that remains a miracle. Imagine here the bursting of joy, relentless and resilient, coming in waves, washing over us with music and story, silence and still this dreaming together, being hope for each other and courage to believe in this new day dawning for us all. And this call to worship is by Gretchen Haley. Come, let us worship together.
Thank you, Mary. And as we join together in worship, we set this initial time to set aside and take account of, amid the backdrop of the world events, to take a moment to pause together, to stand in recognition of moments of celebration, moments of challenge, moments of sorrow within and among our community. And we do so by placing a small glass stone in water, symbolically causing ripples that will continue through this space and outside the walls in which we are sheltered under this morning. A stone for our new member Suzanne's father, Jean-Guy, who fell and broke his hip, requiring surgery yesterday afternoon. A stone for those who have and are still waiting in line to see Queen Elizabeth II lying in state. A stone for the families and loved ones of those slain in Saskatchewan 2 weeks ago now. And a final stone this morning for all that remains in the silent sanctuary of our hearts that is as yet unspoken. For these and more, let us sit together now in a few moments of stillness and silence before the sound of the piano brings us back together again.
The reading today is from Becoming the Meaning of Membership by the Commission on Appraisal of the Unitarian Universalist Association, 2001. The Commission's chapter on Theologies of Membership begins with a look at 1 Corinthians 12:12. For as the body is one and hath many members, and all the members of that one body, being many, are one body. It is important to understand that chapter 12 in 1 Corinthians begins by talking about spiritual gifts. Paul urges his followers to recognize the many and varied spiritual gifts in the Christian community and to welcome and make use of all of them. The emphasis of this text is on building a fellowship based on equality, unity, and mutuality. The church that Paul urges the Corinthians toward is one in which individual persons become part of something greater. It is not a place one would join simply in order to find one's self. A family shopping for the church with the most benefits would not find this one to their liking. As Bernard Jones puts it, it is clear that the church was not an organization that an individual went along to join as he might make an application to join a golf club. It was an ecclesia, a group of people called. A calling implies the expectation of a serious and transforming relationship. People called to membership take that membership seriously. A church built on equality, unity, and mutuality will appeal to those who are looking for a repository for their particular gifts and talents, who are looking for a place to grow beyond their own particular perspectives. It is also a church that will appeal to people who are looking for a way to live out their faith in the larger community. It is a church that celebrates the whole that is so much more than the sum of the parts, that welcomes and encourages all comers to be part of an organic entity that stretches well beyond the vision or intent of any one individual leader. It is a church where I can take care of myself is replaced by we can and will take care of each other.
So I'd like to invite the choir to come up now, and while they're coming up, I'll tell you a bit about what you're going to be seeing. The people singing today are sort of a medley of fusion and chalice. for the reason that I canceled both of their rehearsals this week due to, beginning school and the germ petri dish that my house became very suddenly. So they've put this together just this morning so that we still have this chance to sing together today. And I'll also maybe put in a little plug for the choir as I'm talking here. So if you would like to join, we're just about to start, really hit the ground running next week. Particularly if you want to come out to Chalice next week at 7 on Thursdays. Everybody is welcome, and there will be singing. There might even be some cookies this week. So please feel free to come out. So rise up, O flame.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy. Rise up, O flame, by thy light flame, show to us beauty, vision, and
The flame rises even as the rain falls. I love it. This morning, we are all in the middle of the beginning of a story. Let me explain. In 5 weeks' time, on the afternoon of Sunday, October 23rd, to be precise, the members of this congregation will install me as your next settled lead minister, which means we all hope and fully expect things will work out between us for the next several years. And if October seems to be a bit late for such a ceremony, given that we've been working together for over a year now, well, COVID. This installation will be the formal celebration stating, echoing back to my theme of belonging last week, stating that we belong to one another. An installation is a ceremony that's a rough equivalent, that its rough equivalent would be to a wedding ceremony, and yes, I did say rough equivalent. During the ceremony of installation, this congregation and I will make our promises to one another, our vows, if you will, formally outlining our intentions for both how we will relate to one another, as well as a hint of the work that we will undertake together. An installation is a big deal in the life of any community of faith, and certainly for those who strive to be religious leaders like myself. And as you know, a wedding ceremony is a big deal as well. Some couples choose to elope because weddings are such big deals. Symbolically, weddings celebrate the love of two people as they become together a new family. In congregational terms, ceremonies of installation are very much the same. Installations make what has been a fine working relationship and turn it into a much deeper partnership. As an aside, a notable guide to navigating the process by which congregations and religious leaders find one another, also known in our faith tradition as the search process, is called, this particular book, and I'm not making this up, Like Dating, Only Worse. It's by Unitarian Universalist Michael Doral. You can look it up. It is a good read, and I can recommend it now that you've found me. Sorry, couldn't resist. An installation is when the congregation and their religious leaders make their formal promises to one another. And so, like any wedding, is a moment of joy and also utmost seriousness. And if you are interested in pursuing parish ministry, at some point it dawns on you, often during those latter seminary years, to start collecting the printed programs of any and all installations and ordinations you attend. My classmates and I called this collecting in archives of the religious tradition. In short, when you're planning your own ceremony, it helps to have templates from which to work. So I was a bit surprised to hear, a little less than a year ago now, former members of your search committee, the group that found me and helped me find you, say that the director of our denomination's transitions office, Keith Cron, and that's the office that does the matchmaking, Keith said that there is a new best practice in which congregations and religious leaders jointly create their covenant with one another prior to ceremonially making them. Now, Keith and I have known each other from our days in seminary. Be forewarned, if Keith ever invites you to play tennis with him, he is ruthless on the court. And a former children's educator, Keith also has the largest collection of children's book I know of outside a major civic library system. So I reached out to Keith to learn about this new best practice that I hadn't heard about. And it seems that what he said to our search team was more aspirational than actual. We agreed that we'd reach out to other colleagues on the UU Ministers Clergy Facebook group, but I had forgotten about Keith and tennis. He beat me to the punch. No matter. What we learned was illuminating. While many thought that a stated covenant between religious leaders and the people they serve was a really great idea, only one colleague had such a thing in place. Changing only a gendered reference and to remove the congregation's name, here it is. We, the ministers and members of the congregation, choose to live in a relational covenant. In the Unitarian Universalist tradition, there is no higher authority than the congregation. Yet the congregation does not operate in isolation, but rather in covenant with its professional leaders, other congregations, and with that which is ultimate. We have called our minister to serve as our spiritual and pastoral leader and facilitate our shared journey with honesty, personal reflection, and purpose so we can grow in compassion and truth as we serve our mission to the wider world. To encourage healthy shared ministry, we honor the following practices. The congregation will support the minister in their personal and professional needs, believing that a stronger minister equips us to model an intentional, beloved community. The minister will challenge and support us in deepening our passion for our religious tradition, and the ministers and members will live their conscience and speak their minds with compassion and responsibility for their words and actions. Just a couple more points here. The minister will balance transparency with respect for confidentiality. The minister and congregation will work together to live into our covenants. Together, we will honor our past as we create new possibilities for our future. And in closing, we recognize that we will not live this covenant perfectly. When we fail, we will forgive ourselves and each other and begin again in the spirit of trust, compassion, and inquiry. Copies of that sheet are on the back welcome table if you'd like to read it over more closely, and I hope that you will. I made 45 copies. I would gladly plant another tree and make more copies for you. Well, I like what that covenant says. It focuses much more on process than on direction or product. And the form is not conducive to that of an installation ceremony, but that is primarily a formatting concern. And of course, you will have noticed that there are some extra words, as I mentioned earlier in today's program. These are only slightly adapted from the words set at my last installation ceremony. I hope you'll look over them as well. For those of you not in Worship Hall this morning, just email me. I will gladly send you either or both. My hope is that you'll read them over and reflect on what you find and what you don't see written down. If what is sent in, if the response is warranted, I'll set up a forum for those interested in going over all this with me before the ceremony on October 23rd. I'm hoping we can do that on Sunday, October 2nd. The following day is Thanksgiving weekend, and we will have other activities after church then, and waiting any longer might be too close. So if you want to talk with me at any point, call me, email me, and we'll see about setting up a time for a larger conversation in 2 weeks' time after the service. When it came time for me to mull over the written liturgies that I had attended, the faith tradition passed on from other colleagues that have gone before, I realized I was looking at words and asked to make a covenantal promise for the first time to a congregation with words that I was the only author of. It didn't seem right. We can do better than that. And then I can tell Keith, we're living into what you thought would be a good idea. Look at this. Look at what we've done together. Now, I've been with you long enough that many of you have probably heard me say that ours is not a creedal faith, but a covenantal one. If not for me, I trust you've heard the same from previous of your ministers. To formally belong to this faith community as a member, there is no profession of belief that is required. Instead, and while this at first may seem a subtle difference, it is a crucial one, that we ask only that you are in sympathy with our principles and purposes. Now, a quick moment on covenants, and if you have taken or led this congregation's map-making adult religious exploration course, this may sound familiar to you. A covenant is not a contract, but rather a voluntary relationship. The early Hebrews had a covenant with their God. We have covenants with one another. The focus of a covenant is on the promises one group or person makes to another person or group about how they will support one another and what shared values they will uphold together. Thus, when a covenant is broken or violated, the parties involved focus on restoring the core of their relationship through reconciliation and forgiveness. Most of us in that spirit would agree with the Jewish philosopher and theologian Martin Buber, who is credited as describing humanity as promise-making, promise-breaking, and promise-restoring. This is in the fabric of what it means to be people in relationship with one another. And now I have to look at the clock. It's dark. I have to look at my watch. I want to share with you a brief bit of history. Well, this is a story that originated from the colonies south of what would become our national border. The spirit of this gathered people is fitting for us here today. We may not be direct descendants of the people in question, but we are certainly theological and indirect descendants. It's the story of the settlers in Dedham, Massachusetts, and it comes to us from Alice Blair Wesley, who studied diligently on the history of religious covenants in the Congregational and Unitarian traditions. I'm quoting her now. When they arrived from England to settle, colonists who came to North America duplicated the arrangement of English towns, building their houses close together with fields surrounding the town. Generally, the colonists who settled in a particular town here in North America came from the same place back in England. They knew one another. By contrast, the settlers in Dedham came from different places throughout Britain, and they were unacquainted with one another. In 1637, about 30 English families were newly settled in this new township called Dedham, Massachusetts. They didn't know one another. All that they knew is that they were here as settlers to live new lives, and that required getting to know and figuring out how to work with their new neighbors. So how did they do that? For over a year, those who could came together every Thursday night and talked about their intentions and talked about what they needed to lead fulfilling lives. They were people of the book. That's how they thought of themselves. And yet, they didn't begin these Thursday night conversations talking about the Bible or their relationship to it. They came, and here I'm quoting Blair Wesley, for the subject of these disputes or conference, diverse meetings at first were sent about questions as pertain to the just, peaceable, and comfortable proceeding in the civil society. And actually, she's quoting their language. Translated into more modern parlance, how would they, as members of a new religious order, covenant in religious loyalty to the spirit of love with one another? And I'm quoting Wesley here. Then and now, for as long as human history lasts, the integrity of what she calls the free church, meaning we are free to believe and think as we will, comes down to our loyalty to the spirit of love at work in the hearts and minds of us, the local members. The lay people who founded the Dedham Church knew so and clearly said so. And that is why we, Wesley concludes, still say together, often in our churches even now, love is the doctrine of this church. Is that a phrase that echoes here? I'm hearing yeas, and I'm seeing people nod their head. I think so too. Now, here today, we are not a fledgling colony or settler village. In fact, our congregation, if I'm doing the math right, will celebrate its 125th anniversary of its formal founding this next February. That's an achievement, folks. For years, this community met down on Elgin Street downtown before we moved to this location. And here, for over 50 years now, we've had this view. You actually can see it a little better when the leaves are down in the winter, but you know, the river, Quebec, it's beautiful. If I get boring, you've got that. I'm glad. Back in the 60s, we came to this location for a more modern space in which to meet. We came for the view, and we came, I have to think, for a bit more elbow room. And still, the city has continued to expand. As David Chernyshenko has said, we need to realize that we are becoming, once again, a downtown church. We are a faith community that cares for one another and the welfare of society at large, marching for climate and working for immigration justice, partnering with those whom we need to reconcile for the tragedies and long memories of history. These are not efforts for any one of us to attempt alone. We need one another on this journey. So let's start with a few words on paper, words that will echo in this room in 5 weeks' time. We'll start with a covenant of how we will continue to work together, and then let's roll up our sleeves once more for the work at hand. May it be so. Amen.
Before I go on to the invitation to our offering, which is next on the agenda, there are 2 caring cards we want to tell you about. And for those who are unaware of the caring card system, we have a caring committee to whom we can give happy news and sad news. And you heard about one of the bits of news today about Suzanne Grelot's father. So we are sending a card to her, and we'd like as many people as could to sign it. Even if you don't know Suzanne or didn't know her father, it's so helpful to people to know that people in this congregation are thinking of them. And by signing our name, if you want to write a little note, all the better, but just to let them know we're thinking of them. So one card is to Suzanne Grelot to send healing energy to her and to her father, who, as Reverend Eric mentioned, fell and broke his hip. The second caring card is for the death of Jean Marie Ahmed. She was a long-time FirstU member, and in fact, she wrote a history of FirstU called So Far, So Good, 1898 to 1998. So a very special person. This congregation has a long history of care, vitality, and bringing people together to move the arc of justice forward. We have been able to live into our hopes and dreams because of the generosity of those within and beyond this community. Whether you are here in Worship Hall or anywhere else at all, you are part of this community. To make a gift in support of the work of this congregation, you don't need to use the baskets that will soon be making their way among our pews. Wherever you are invited to go to our website or contact our finance manager to find out how to make a donation or keep up with your pledge. Our gifts are freely given and gratefully received. We dedicate these gifts to the work of this community of faith, serving human wholeness, caring for the planet, upholding religious freedom, welcoming the stranger, loving one another. And now, following the theme of our choral piece earlier, please rise as you are willing and able as we join together in our closing hymn, led by Mariella, I believe. Perhaps not.
Sorry, just me.
Please be seated. Before we begin to close this time of worship and reflection, a reminder that our online hospitality hour will begin at 11:30. For those of you who would like to access hospitality hour here, you can do so in our lounge, out the doors, and around to your right. There you'll be able to connect with all of those joining hospitality hour from home and have discussions with those joining in person in the room. Sadly, we're not quite able, given the state of COVID in our world, to have full coffee hour with food and drinks just yet. And as we prepare now to extinguish our chalice and move toward the conclusion of this time of worship and inspiration, let these words by Laurel S. Sheridan guide us forward. Take from life its coals, not its ashes. Fan the flames of love and justice. Join hands and hearts in common endeavor, and there will be no limit to what we can achieve together. Our chalice is extinguished this morning, but the spark of our connections and faith remain. Jen, will you bless us again?
Spirit
raise hands, if you will, extending to those near you and beyond us outside in the world. As we prepare now to leave this space, may our hearts remain open and our minds remain clear. We are people of both reason and heart, of both memory and hope. May we also always remain people of love, providing a place in this world for our spirits, a place perhaps we can best know as home. And now we return to the challenge of helping the world come alive in love. Let us go forward in peace, my friends. Go in peace. Go in peace. And enjoy today's postlude.